My name is Alex Ditto. I'm a software developer. Right now I'm working on the Laravel platform. I've been working on Laravel for about the past year. Whenever I first learned to code, that was about 3 years ago. I started on JavaScript on the mean and the MERN stack, and so a lot of my information I have, or all of the training that I had, a lot of my initial learning was in JavaScript, and I've kind of been pulled into PHP from there. My main area of focus whenever I'm on my day job is to focus on JavaScript and SweetScript, which is the coding language that NetSuite uses. So I spend a lot of time writing different Sweetlets and little packages for NetSuite for mainly accountants to use, although I focus a lot on automation as well. On Laravel, however, I focus a lot more on web development. Laravel, if you are new to Laravel, if this is your first kind of introduction to it, or you just want to see what it looks like to kind of dive into code, what it actually looks like to develop a project, Laravel is a really great full stack tool that allows you to use PHP through and through your application. So you can be a mono language application, much like Node, where you really only need to know JavaScript as far as your kind of large scale syntax. You don't have to learn something like Java or Ruby in order to deploy an application. You can do the same thing with PHP. You can know no JavaScript. You can have very little idea of what even proper HTML is. But if you know PHP well, you can develop a full front-end, back-end application, a full stack application. So I'm going to be building something. The whole point of this isn't to really be big and whimsical or engaging or entertaining. Sorry, I'm not that type of stream for this. Hey, maybe I'll put together something snappy, like 3 or 4 minute videos that might be more fun to watch. The whole point of this would just be to see somebody who is trying to code in the Laravel environment and see what I can create. And hopefully a lot of this is going to push me along to learn some new concepts in Laravel. Hey, let's dig in. Big questions right off the bat. Why Laravel, and what do I want to build? So the main reason why I'm choosing out Laravel for this project, it's a side project, I could have chosen any language. I've coded and done web applications in other languages, like I said, Node earlier. So I could easily ring up a mean or MERN stack and have something running it pretty quick. And the same point, I could also run something in Django and run something on Python. A good amount of Python experience, mainly in producing bots. A lot of websites that I needed to scrape information from, particularly government websites that have a lot of open source information, but won't set up an API for you to get that information. One of the jobs that I had required a lot of that, going and getting information off a web page, and I'm too lazy to copy and paste from 1,000 web pages. I'm not doing that. So anyway. I could do it in Python, but I think Laravel is a much better application, much better framework to build something from full back end to front end, for 2 reasons. One, it's something that an individual developer can do, right? You're only working in one language, so you don't really have to be a master of 3 or 4 different languages in order to put out a okay product. You can really just focus in on PHP, get the fundamentals of PHP running really well, understand the framework of Laravel, and then using a lot of the first party and kind of second party, third party applications that Laravel uses, like Livewire is going to be the big one that we're going to use. Using a lot of those, you can really just stay in the one mindset mentally, which is really great. And then the other aspect of Laravel that makes it really good for a tool like this is not only can I develop it all myself, but if for some reason this was something for this project, it won't be. But if I started developing, let's say, my own product, and that halfway through I decided, oh man, this is actually a really good idea, and I want to turn this into a SaaS that I can put out in the industry and I can sell, maybe if I'm doing something something for broadcasting or something that would help accounting or something like that. Turning a Laravel application from a singular I should probably move my mouse on occasion, from a single like web application that's only going to affect kind of you and what you see, or rather, a small scale application for like 100 to 150 users a day. Taking that from this really small application where you're using barely anything on AWS and some resources there, or whatever kind of hosting services you use, and then scaling that to be 1,000 users every hour, 10,000 users every hour, is something that Laravel can do with, especially whenever you look at things like Octane that allow for Laravel to run really heavy applications and a lot of users and things like that. On the other side, you can run it with Vapor if you want to go super, super light, which is probably what we would want to do for something like this, where even if I put it online, it's probably not going to be accessed by more than anybody who wants to see like what I made myself. So that's a really great place. With Vapor, you can have it basically run on AWS, but it's all Lambdas. So it's these things that kind of kick up and work for as long as the website is being accessed, and then shut themselves down and don't charge you for it. So especially for this, where it's just me, I'm not making money off of this. So it's a great way of saying like, hey, I'm not going to make that much money if I put it on a website. Why don't I not lose $20 a month paying for a CPU, paying for an instance that isn't really getting accessed. So that's the first reason. The second reason, it's going to be super, I think it's going to be pretty fluid to build something like this. What do I want to build? Okay, so here's what I want to build. I love Dungeons & Dragons. Every time that I dive into a language, whether it was whenever I first started learning JavaScript, whenever I learned Python, whenever I focused on C++, or my small, very small touching into Java, the main things that I focused on right off the bat was how can I make a Dungeons & Dragons game out of this? Because I'm a nerd and I love Dungeons & Dragons. So I want to build something that's going to make my job as a dungeon master whenever I play Dungeons & Dragons easier. The thing that I absolutely hate whenever it comes to being a dungeon master, one of the hardest aspects of being a dungeon master is combat. There's just so much that goes into running a successful combat as a dungeon master. That's really too much. So I want to make a dungeon master screen. If you've ever played Dungeons & Dragons before, most dungeon masters have a screen that separates you from the players. It does two things. One, it lets you hide roles and your notes and menus so they can't see it, so it can be a surprise later. The other thing that it lets you do is kind of save notes. Just makes it easier because then I can see on my screen, which is like a folder screen. I can see on my screen different, like, oh yeah, what's the status condition? Or, oh yeah, what should I charge them to stay at an inn for the night? Okay, cool, it says 3 copper to stay at an inn. Unless it's a nice one, then it's 2 silver or whatever. Having those little notes ready as a dungeon master is really, 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 really useful. I want to create something specifically as a dungeon master screen for me for running combat. So what am I going to do there? I want to build basically something that can track how many monsters there are. I want to be able to add monsters and take them away kind of on a click, or basically I'm probably going to be running this on my phone, so I want to be able to tap it and have that monster kind of appear. I want to be able to see what its attacks are. I want to be able to tap the monster and have it roll an attack and roll damage so that I can see like, hey, it rolled a 13. And if it hits, it's going to do 30 points of damage. So then I can ask my player, hey, what's your AC? Oh, it's 12. Well, go ahead and throw away your character. You just got wrecked. Or, oh, it's 15. Sweet, you dodged this damage. But something that I can move through. I think at a high level, if you're really into Dungeons & Dragons, you might know this. Really good monsters, or legendary monsters, have what are called legendary actions. So it kind of breaks the flow of the turn, which I love. The hard part is you're usually so focused on getting everybody else to take their turns that you forget that, oh man, this dragon has a legendary action. And if I would have used that, it would have been a more interesting combat, and it would have been more challenging, and I think it would have broken up a lot of the mundanity. So I want something that will like let me know, hey, this person's got legendary actions, a big star, and that I can hit that star and use some of those legendary actions. But that's what I want to do. I want to be able to track those things. I want to be able to track health. There's lots that's going to go on to this. So all that said, let's start building. Big things that I want to do. So high level, Laravel isn't very friendly with coding on PC. However, I own a PC, Windows PC. Laravel is much better to the Mac community. Live streaming is not good to the Mac community. So I found that it's probably going to be easier for me to live stream, even though on a day-to-day, 9 to 5, I work on a MacBook whenever I'm coding in Laravel. So if you're going to get into Laravel really deep, I recommend using Mac as opposed to a PC for 2 reasons. One, it's a lot easier to set up on a Mac. Or Linux really, and there's a lot of applications there that are Mac specific that help run it a lot easier. The big one is Valet. Valet basically allows you to, much like is it PM2 I think, basically it allows for your application to run behind the scenes. So it's kind of constantly monitoring those applications and running those on a web page for you while you're in local development. It's also something where you're probably going to have to use Docker, which is what I had to set up in order to code on PC. That was one of the biggest kind of struggles in getting Laravel started. I might try to do a video devoted to how to get started on Laravel with a PC. But for now, I think CD into ditto. For now, I think I just want to jump in and I really just want to start building some stuff. So let's hit some Laravel documentation. I always remember, if you want to code on a Windows, honestly, like even just looking through the startup, getting started up on a Mac, it's so easy. You just kind of run this initial curl command, and then you're basically ready to go. Windows is just it's a bit more. it's a bit more to start up Windows. So the first thing I'm going to do in starting up this new application is I want to build something new. So this terminal command, if I download Laravel and I have kind of Laravel working as a macro on my computer, then I could just call like Laravel, I think, project build. For this, I'm kind of starting a little bit more from scratch. I've got Ubuntu running on my application here. Easy command, it's a curl command. Whatever you put here, that example app, is what it's going to kind of produce in that new app. So let's call it, how about dungeon screen? Let's be more explicit, shall we? Dungeon master screen. I like that. Dungeon master screen, bash. Hey, let's let it run. This will take a little bit. Hey, we got that Laravel sign there. That lets us know that it's going to install all the packages. Once we dive in, we'll be able to bring that into our IDE. As far as IDEs go, IDE is Individual Development Environment. If you're watching this, you probably knew that. But hey, if this is your first time, don't feel ashamed. And if I use terminology, say it in the comments. Be the first one. Be the first one to comment on a video. Unless my wife has already commented on a video, in which case be the second person to comment on a video. Let me know that, hey, you said this acronym, I'm not sure what that was. It might just be me flubbing something up. Part of being self-taught is sometimes you use the wrong words because you heard it used in a video and you forgot how it's properly used. Hey, there's no shame in that. Right? While this is downloaded, it's probably a good time to actually say. So I started coding altogether 3 years ago. Started learning basically 4 years ago. I have 2 master's degrees. I don't know why I choked whenever I said that. Probably because I'm paying that much in student loans. I have 2 master's degrees, one in philosophy and one in theology. So none of them are in computer science. But the great thing about those is that they've helped me kind of learn how to study and learn how to research, which is really great in this field. So that I very much recommend. If you can do that without paying for the student loans that I'm paying for, that's probably wiser. So anyway, jumping back into what we're talking about here. Hey, there it is. Let's open it up. IDE is Individual Development Environment. An individual development environment is basically the place that you go to write code. Any type of, we can see that this is all caching away here. Loki. Ooh. Hey, thank you. So this is really great. I actually love that I really love that they have this here. That basically lets you know what your next step is. So they're recommending the CD. CD is obviously changing directory into the new directory that was just built, the Dungeon Master screen, and they recommend right away go ahead and bend and cell up. Which, hey, let's do that. That's some great recommendation. We will want to allow access to this as it runs. And we'll see, did this actually... Let's see where this actually ends up running once it's done. I think it says that it ends up running on localhost, particular localhost. I think just at localhost. Say master or master? Master screen. Not yet. Let's see if it finishes out. I'm not sure exactly where this will serve. If you're using something like if you're on a Mac, times that I do this at work. If you're on a Mac, you write a program called Valet, and Valet you say basically go to where that application is and you tell it to park, and then it will run off of the name of the application .test, and it'll run whatever it is. So if you say something like I'm going to name my application Dungeon Master Screen, it would say something like Dungeon Master Screen .test, and start working, which is really great. Looks like we're starting up MySQL, which Laravel connects with very well. We'll be running a few different applications in this. Livewire is going to be one of the big ones. Laravel Livewire. Let's actually pull that up so you can see the value of Livewire. Livewire is a really great front-end framework to be working with. So like, it's really simple to get it started up and running, and then a lot of an application can run off of Livewire and look and feel really fantastic. Feel really fantastic. Livewire takes care of a lot of the JavaScript-y kind of stuff that you would do. And hey, I'm feeling like Tailwind CSS because Tailwind is just a really powerful component-based CSS kind of thing, and I don't like CSS. Yeah, I don't like CSS. It sucks. I always say there's two types of people. There's people who like CSS, and there's people who work with CSS, and never the two shall meet. In fact, I think that Livewire takes away a lot of the, Tailwind CSS takes away a lot of the particular parts of CSS that are annoying and atrocious, and makes it really easy to create these like small components that are reusable in such a way that it is easy to code with and easy to develop on, but also not overly complicated. Did we serve? Let's see. Now it'll be the interesting part, is seeing where this actually served. And so there, did it? No, I don't think so. Let's see. Right. Oh. Let's pull this apart so we can see some of this information. It's not running there. Let's see. I don't know where this is serving. I think it is serving right now. That's all their stuff that they're trying to promote, their Discord page and all of that good stuff. I don't actually see an endpoint. And this is the localhost thing. Is showing you onto a Apache page, which is great. But what I'm not seeing is the Laravel string that I'm used to. Usually Laravel will create up like a default HTML that makes it easy to see kind of that the application is working. It's a nice kind of instant hello world, but also lets you know some of the other parts of it that are running. So that's what it recommends. Let's see if this is working. Yeah, it's not. So this is the env file. It's a database. I actually don't see where it's serving it. Let's check the documentation. This is probably a good point to talk about Laravel's documentation a little bit. So if you are new to the Laravel community, hey, welcome. Our documentation is great. Legitimately, the documentation you can see here, with each different version, they go through and they rewrite the documentation, kind of retouching each point. This is really great for two reasons. One, if I am doing some work and for some reason somebody is asking me to look at an application that was made in Laravel version 6, I can come and jump into that version and see what is and isn't available to me there. And the first thing that I can do is convince them to pay me a bunch of money to come and, hey, upgrade their app and put it into Laravel 10, because it will work better if it's in a newer version of Laravel, assuming that the version of PHP that they're running on, the server that they're running on, can support Laravel or PHP 8.1, probably 8.2 before very long. And then come to Laravel Shift. Laravel Shift will upgrade your application from whatever version it is, all the way up to 10, to the modern version. Super fast, super easy. It's like $20. Yeah, like $5 to $30 depending on how big the shift is. I think if you need to go all the way from like 5 to 10, it's a huge jump. There it's going to cost a little bit more money, but otherwise it's going to be really cheap. Shift is great. Shift is a great tool. The creator of it tends to speak at Laracon each year. He's a really great speaker. He actually gave a speech this last time. If you're watching this, go watch that. It is. He's a much better presenter, and obviously this is just live streaming code, so who knows what this is even going to end up looking like. So you can access the application at Laravel hosts, which will not change. Like it's doing what I would expect it to. Apache is running. Why isn't it showing? Showing the Hello World page that I expect. Sail up. Alias sail up, starting and stopping, sail up, sail stop. Artisan queue. So artisan queue is like whenever you're, especially if you have like jobs that are working in the background. Laravel makes it really easy to run a lot of jobs, which are like individual running parts of your application that are kind of asynchronous to your users' actions. Ugh, that was an ugly, stupid statement. Basically, jobs are, you want your application to do something and run off and do whatever it is because of something that a user or a time did or something like some kind of key event, but you don't want that key event to be waiting for whatever that is to happen. So a great example is like, I want something to, let's say I've got two databases, kind of a local database that runs all my information here, but then I've got like a marketing website. Like let's say I'm connected to Google Analytics, or rather, Google Marketing, and I want to send off an HTTP request to them to update the current, I think they call them conversion of that customer. Say I'm selling them something, and as they move through the pipeline, I want to update where they are in that pipeline, but I don't want it to slow them down at all, because if they're putting stuff in the cart and they're wanting to check out, last thing I want to do is wait for Google to say that they noticed that person came to my website, right? I just want to initiate that job so that my computer will then go and say, like, the website will go and say, yeah, we'll take care of all this processing of where they are in the conversion as the person runs along. So that's looking good. I'm not sure. Typically, file storage. So this is telling me where they store information. That all looks right. For the Docker. I do say Mario stuff whenever I don't know what's going on. Let's see. Guide. Let's see. That just doesn't seem right. That'd be yeah. Nope. Is it in here? I feel like it's probably. I feel like the issue is probably in my env file. At port. But where are you? I don't know. Yeah, if that would have worked the first time, that's what I would have done, because I did do it the first time. Done. That's something I would change if I was going into production. This is actually a really nice time to talk about this. The mailer for Laravel is really slick, really easy to set up. So you basically say, like, this is where I want my mail to come from. And then the name that I want it to be. So normally it's going to interpolate the application name, which right now it's Laravel, but I would probably turn that to something like Dungeon master screen, right? Something like that. So if I was doing some type of marketing campaign or something like that, where it's going to email them, having the Dungeon master screen like that is pretty slick and easy. And then actually implementing an email in the Laravel code is actually pretty slick as well, and something we should definitely do. If I can get this to load. But of course that's not going to work. Slash. Yeah, I feel like that should run it. Served at local 80. But if I do that, getting this page here. I mean, let's try. Let's try this. Oh, I'm already in that directory. Let's try this. I actually feel like this will work. Okay, cool. Hey, we'll see. This gets best back into building. Let's build for a little bit. Let's start with something easy. Just to get some stuff in. Let's bring in Livewire. How about this? Let's bring in Livewire. Let's manipulate that first page, bring in some tailwinds, and then we'll probably call this a good first stream. See how things are. Check my audio. Make sure that this whole time you can actually hear and see what I'm doing, so that I'm not just talking into the ether, because that'd be kind of sad. That would be kind of sad if that was my first live stream. I mean, I'm going to be talking into the ether anyway, because, like, who's watching this? My wife is. Hey! Hey, wife. Beyond that, probably not many. But hey, this is more for me than anyone else. I'm selfish that way. So that one's running. This one's running my server. All that's good. Let's dig into my, there we are. We'll use this one to run all of my composer stuff. So I'm pretty sure in PHP Storm, you can run a terminal there. I just like to have my terminal separate. So let's bring this in first. Livewire. Livewire is super easy to pull in. So let's start by composer require. So composer require, I could say composer require dev if I just wanted something to be in my dev environment. This is really great for like testing materials. So like if I want to run something like man, I was hoping that the word would come to my mind. There's a really good testing framework. Jest. There was actually some really great presentations on it this year at Laracon. A really great snapshot feature. This is actually something I'm really excited about. I hate testing HTML, or rather I hate testing like the visuals on on a website, because it's just so tedious to write all these little functions to say like, oh, you should see this, and when this changes you should see this in the HTML. With one of the updates they did, you basically just say like, hey, go to this web page. I know it's correct right now. It looks the exact way that I want it to in my application. Take a snapshot of it, and then store that away. So it does that, runs the test the first time, takes a snapshot of your page, and then just stores it away. And then as you're developing, if you kick something to production, you're about to kick it to production, you run all your tests, you change something that broke the HTML for whatever reason, like the CSS just isn't loading now for whatever weird reason. Normally, the HTML would say, well, yeah, it's there, it looks good. Yeah, everything's good, go to production. This will be like, hold on, these two screenshots look different now, and it'll throw up red flags. which is great, but it also doesn't take forever to code out. So I'm going to be installing Jest on this. We're going to be using some Jesting here. That said, Dev is a really great environment to have a different development and production environment. Livewire we're going to be using everywhere, so let's do that. Composer install, standard with crane. Heck yes. Composer install failure. Alright, what's going on? Why did you fail me? His locked version. Composer, probably need to update. Composer update first. Almost every time that you have a problem with Composer, just run a Composer update. Composer update, Composer install. And then Composer update again. Just keep running those two commands until things start working again. That's been my experience, at least. Composer is basically a package manager for your web application. That didn't fail too, did it? So, Laravel ignition requires exit curl is missing from your system. That's weird. Hey, let's see what that is. Yep, I got the same error. Anybody who uses PHP 8? I'm using 8.1 if I remember correctly. PHP version. Yep, 8.1. Let's see if that's correct. Yes. So, because I'm using Docker, this is all kind of partitioned on my hard drive, so we'll get that kind of asking if it can use more and more resources as it goes along. Usually just, yeah, you're usually fine because whatever you have should have enough resources to be able to do that. Okay, cool. So, hey, Stack Overflow to the win. Remember, guys, if you're not using Stack Overflow, you're the dumb one. Yeah, use Stack Overflow, use Google. We're professionals. There's no like, oh, I remember everything and I'm some type of wizard guru behind the keyboard. If you don't know something, just freaking Google it. Freaking Google it. It's fine. It's cool. All right, sweet. So, let's see if that package installed. Look at that. We got our Livewire stuff. So there is a bit more configuration that you have to do. Include JavaScript on every page. That is using that. So typically Laravel applications use something called Blade automatically. It's their HTML rendering. Blade is great. You can do a lot with Blade. There's almost no reason to jump ship from Blade immediately unless you're jumping to something like unless you're jumping to Livewire. Just because Blade is honestly enough to do most applications. In reality, we could probably build this entire thing off Blade and just be just as good. But the nice thing that Livewire will give us is just a lot of reactivity. Oh yeah, I'm thinking the wrong thing. Whereas if we just did it in Blade, we would miss a lot of that. So So let's go to let's go to the local view real fast. Okay, sweet. So, big things, high level. Let's talk about some stuff. Web PHP is kind of your home of your application. It's going to be where we do a lot of the routing. There is some new stuff that you can do now with front end routing. Basically, you don't really need a routing page anymore at all if you don't want it. A new service came out at Laracon this year that basically allows you to use the same file structure to determine your routing in the same way that if you're used to Next.js, it's the way that Next works. I don't like it. I like routing pages, personally. I like to build on routing pages. I like to see my endpoints. I like to use a separate API to do some of the routing points if I'm building an API. That's the big thing. So, real fast, let's select everything in the body. All this stuff here. Let's delete it all. Let's get rid of, let's get rid of everything that's in this body. The main reason I want to get rid of everything is it's just easy to start off fresh. We have everything for there. Under, nope. So J, nope. We'll figure that out later. It's part of the hard part about jumping between Mac and PC is that my hotkeys are a little different. So normally at work I'm doing a lot more hotkey stuff, and I recommend to use hotkeys as much as possible. But because I'm on a PC, I'm a little disoriented. Let's do the classic hello world. Hello world. And now let's do a Livewire application. So there we go. Include JavaScript in every page. Now, how do I do this normally? Livewire styles in the head. And at Livewire scripts in the bottom. Let's re-render that. Just make sure. Yep. Everything's good. And let's grab this. Let's just make like a test component just to make sure. We'll go through and delete the first test component. So from here, we'll do Livewire test. Before we actually do that command, let's run a help just so you can see some of the stuff that Livewire will produce automatically. Force allows you to force it to be made. Don't use it. Don't use it. If you're having to force PHP artisan to make something, it's usually a sign that something else is broken in your code. You can do inline. Inline basically creates the PHP and the HTML all in the same model. Something I don't normally do unless I'm trying to do something really small. Test is really a great thing to run with it each time. We won't do it for this because we're just kind of well, actually, I don't think we'll use test because I think I'm going to try to use jest on this one. Quiet is, I mean, if you want to, by all means. what I'm just going to do is, let's just do a test one. Would you like to show some love by sharing the repo? Yes. Thanks, that means the world to me. Anything for you, Caleb. Caleb is the creator of Laravel. Not Laravel. He's the creator of Livewire. Really great guy. Really clever, really smart, really handsome. Check out his stuff. So here we have the test component in Blade, and then the test component in the PHP. So if we say something like, I am working, we go back to the hello world, and I say something like, Livewire test, do a self-closing, I remember right. Hey, I'm working. Look at that. So that's basically how easy it is to run these. I think next time I will obfuscate a lot of this off into a different HTML structure, so we're not running everything off of having to do a lot of this like boilerplate. We'll obfuscate a lot of that boilerplate off into its own component. So we're not having to reload that on each page. But really great things with this is I can do all of my fun PHP things like public function construct, or what's it, build, increment, yeah. So basically I can build my functions there and say whenever it constructs, I want it to construct whatever. Say public string test var equals hello. And then I'd say something like this test var equals hello world. Everything should render because we haven't really changed anything, but then if I were to come here and say, I think here I would say something like test var. Look at that. So a really great way to construct your variables, to be able to have different things kind of work on anywhere in the life cycle, like build, construct, any functions that I would want to make. They have a really great example of like using this to build here or there, whatever. All very good. Cool. So we're working there. That looks good. Let's add in big things with Livewire. Coded in Livewire. Always make sure that everything is wrapped in a div, high-level div. If not, it won't function. So if I said something like this, I'm starting to have two divs rather than one. I actually think it will even give me a little note to say that something's wrong. It starts to do really funky things if things aren't wrapped in divs. Just one high-level div. Anyway, I'm actually surprised that rendered at all. But high-level, just make sure. Just have everything in one div at high level. Getting started. So, 12 is easier to install. It's in npm. Let's see if this runs. Yep, it's an npm, and then in a init file, that file is going to do the tailwind config.js. There's some configuration stuff that we have to do right off the beginning. There's some stuff to do right off the beginning, but once it's installed, then we should be in good shape to kind of do that initial setup. Then we'll call it a night. Yeah, I'm not getting that tailwind. Probably because that error was meant to convey something. The npm failed out on me. Thanks. Let's see. New major version. Do I just need to do an npm update? Error, cannot find. Okay, yeah, there's some stuff I have to set up. I'm going to do this. The difficulty I'm having is I don't know if I need to set it up in Google, or sorry, in Ubuntu or in my Windows. No. Okay. Man, it is 11:20 here, p.m. I'm tired. I'm getting a little loopy. And I think I'm probably at the end of what I can mentally run right now. So let's just do this. Let's run, let's build the first component that we think we're actually going to use. So not a test component. Hey, almost all applications start with a login screen. So let's do login screen. Do I want to name it that way? Or do I want to... Yeah. I think the convention is usually to use camel case for your objects. I always forget, but then it's usually camel case for your objects, and then kebab case for your blade components. But then a lot of people use kind of capitalize the first letter on their models, but then not everything else. I don't know. I don't worry too much about it. If somebody's mad about it and you're coding with them, then they can write a package to change things. Anyway, master screen. Then we'll do a placeholder. We'll wrap this in a div. Placeholder for login form. I like that. Let's move away from test to login screen. Save that up. Didn't find it. What? Is it this way? There we are. Cool. Let's hold it there. I like that. Well enough. That's a good place to start. We have everything up, running, installed. I think next time we'll work on getting our CSS framework together, and then start building some basic structures. I think the best way to start with something like this is let's get a users page, a login page. I know that this is something that I'm going to be using right off the bat, but almost always a good feature just to build in any application is to have a login page and to have users. In fact, Laravel actually comes with a bunch of migrations. So if we look at the storage, actually, I'm sorry, I think it's in database. Yeah, database migrations, we actually see that there's a bunch of tables that it's going to build out automatically. One of them is a user and password resets. So having these two things, create password reset, these tables are just so useful to have right off the bat that it's almost like why not have users? Why not have it be an application that you can throw online with multiple users? So I think that's going to be our first step, building that out, building out the login screen, getting those tables functioning. And then the second part, I usually like to think in backend more than I do in front end. After that, let's start building out the tables in MySQL to build out some different monsters. I think with this we're going to be doing some fun things, maybe creating some more complex models than what I'm used to. So I think that's going to be something fun that I'll try out. And then I think we're going to be doing some fun stuff with relationships. So in Laravel, there's a really good way that it builds up relationships with one another using Eloquent, which is basically it writes this SQL query for you and creates those really rigid relationships between models in your database. So I can say something like user or like a monster belongs to this user. Or this address belongs to this user, and I can have that really strong linked. Or I can say that this user has many addresses and be able to formulate that. So then later in the code, rather than having to write a SQL query in order to get that information, I can just say, hey, give that to me, because I've already established it in the model itself. Eloquent is really powerful. You can even do some crazy stuff like one-to-one relationship, one-to-many relationships, many-to-many relationships, polymorphic relationships, many-to-many polymorphic relationships. Hey, it's a crazy, crazy world. So anyway, that's what I think we're going to work on next time. That said, today, hey, thanks for stopping by and coding with me by all means. Hopefully I'll be doing this a little bit more often, and hopefully I'll come up with some like cool things that I'm learning as I'm going. Anyway, that's all I got, dude Orinos. Hey, thanks for stopping by. I'll see you.